I've compiled 8 of the most common advanced beginner mistakes. Once you clear these up, it's going to be your ticket into higher level intermediate play. If you're making these mistakes, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. I'm going to help you fix them today. Let's get started. Let's get started with some really annoying ones that are probably driving you crazy. Hitting on the neck. So the neck of the paddle right here. Do you ever feel or even hear that super clunky feeling when you hit the ball and it just sounds awful and it doesn't go anywhere? You're probably hitting on the neck. So let me just show you what that looks like. So if I'm digging back and forth here, right, I'm hitting the ball. If I hit it on the neck, you're gonna hear that nasty, clunky feeling here, and you're gonna feel the vibration in your hand. And it's gonna be a miss hit, right? Do you kind of hear that? It's horrible, right? The way you fix this problem is by trusting the fact that you've got more room on your paddle than you think. So stop trying to sort of catch the ball, basically. That's the reason why people do this when they hit it on the neck. What you want to do is you want to pretend like you're going to hit it on the tip of your paddle instead. So instead of hitting it here, you're going to hit it right here. So just try that. So dink back and forth, just like you were doing. But purposefully try to miss-hit the ball like that. I miss-hit the ball on the very tip of the paddle. That's going to help you to have confidence to hit the ball higher up, and then you're going to start hitting it on the sweet spot. It's a cool little trick that you can do. All right, the next mistake, not pushing through the ball. One thing that's super common in pickleball that people do is when they swing the ball, they think to themselves, if I don't want to hit the ball very hard, I'm going to take a really, really short kind of abbreviated swing like this. They're going to kind of stab it like this. Actually, let me show you what that looks like. It looks like this. Okay, so if I get the ball over like that. Did you see how abbreviated that swing was? Okay, like this. You may think to yourself, that's going to help me to not hit the ball so hard, right? But what ends up happening though is you're actually accelerating the paddle speed by quite a bit, and it's going to cause a lot of inconsistencies. What you want to do instead is you want to take a bigger swing but a slower swing. It'll help you just to hit the ball better. It'll help you to hit it right on the sweet spot. So instead of doing an abbreviated swing like this, what I'm gonna do is take a little bit larger swing, but slower. See how I'm doing that? And even though, as you noticed, even though I'm taking a pretty big swing, it's not going very far because the speed of the paddle is just not that great, right? So yeah, I can just sit here and do this. And I can swing as slowly as I want. I have so much more control over myself. I'm not chaotic or anything like that. And this is really, really going to help. Have the confidence to push through these shots. See that? Take your paddle back and through. It's really going to help out a lot. The next big mistake, wrist flicking. Oh boy, this is a good one. Now, real quick though, in pickleball, you are going to have strokes where your wrist is going to be involved, such as the overhead like this, such as swiping volleys like this, so on and so forth, or even with the serve a little bit. Using your wrist in pickleball is not necessarily that bad. When it becomes bad is when it's your full actual swing. So let me show you again from this same angle. So the ball comes over and I do this. That is what's really bad about the wrist flicks. Let me show you again, okay? Like that. Did you see? The ball just exploded off my paddle, right? We want to really try to not flick your wrist. Here is how you do this when you're coming through the ball. So I'll see the ball real quick. So when the ball comes over, the way you want to think about this is the moment you start to push through this stroke here, you are not allowed to break your wrist. So I'm coming back and I want you to watch. Wrist does not break. See that? And the way you can think about this is you want to feel like either the end cap of your paddle or your wrist itself is going to come through before your paddle head. This is how I teach people in my lessons, and it really helps because it gives them a really good visual. So if I look down at my paddle like this, I can clearly see that my wrist is ahead of my paddle face. And that's what's going to really help you to not flick this wrist up like that. Because look, if your wrist is like this, if your paddle's like this, it's way ahead of your wrist, right? So try to lay that thing back and let your wrist come through first. It's actually really similar to what we talked about in the previous mistake about not hitting the ball through. It's kind of the same thing. So watch. Watch as I hit this ball, I'm gonna push my wrist through. And what you can do is really exaggerate this follow through here. So I want you to notice where I'm ending my follow through. See how my follow through is way up here like this, right? That makes it to where I'm not gonna flick my wrist. If I flick my wrist, my paddle's gonna be facing right towards me like a mirror. You wanna point the paddle towards your opponent instead. So point the paddle at your opponent. That's gonna help you to not flick your wrist so much. The next mistake, hitting the ball randomly or with no purpose. This comes up a lot right here in the midcourt. So let's say you're on the serving team, you're doing that third shot drop that you've probably heard quite a bit about, and you're here and you're trying to get to the net. What do? What I want you to try to stay away from is hitting the ball randomly or with no purpose. So if I'm hitting the ball here, okay, and I'm just doing this kind of thing, that's what's gonna happen. What you wanna do instead is to try to hit soft shots into the kitchen. Very similar to those third shot drops, but you're gonna do it here at the midcourt as well. That's gonna force him to not hit a shot that's too hard. So again, like this. See how I'm hitting the ball a lot softer and it's landing in the kitchen more, and that's keeping him from hitting hard shots at me. So let me go back to the mistake. The mistake looks like this, okay? You see how chaotic that is, right? Everything goes crazy, and that's gonna get you in trouble eventually. So we're gonna try to soften that up instead. Cool, so what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to actually make some progress into the kitchen, but the key was to hit that soft shot. That soft shot had purpose to it. Think about the purpose of these shots. So I'm gonna aim for a specific shot. I'm just gonna aim to his backhand here. Cool. And then come up, and there you are. That's what happens when your shots have purpose to them. All right, next mistake, not getting back into your ready position. Does this look familiar? Something like that. This is not good. The reason why this is not good, I call this waiting for the elevator. People do this a lot, makes sense. But it's really bad. Reason is because look at the distance between my paddle right here and the block. Quite a bit, or a put away. You want to try to make the distance between your ready position and these hard shots as short as possible. So what I'm going to do is every single time I hit the ball, I'm going to come back into some kind of ready position like this. The way you can think of this is like my paddle's like this, and if I shut one eye, I can't see either face of my paddle, so it's right in the middle like this. Whether you want to hold it with two hands or not a big deal. I do, but you don't really have to. It's not a big deal. So every single time I hit that shot, I come back into my ready position. That way I'm ready for these shots whenever they come over. It's kind of the lazy way of doing it, honestly. Because, you know, I don't have to work very hard to get these volleys. I can just do it. It's right there. See, I'm just coming back every single time without question. Also, give yourself a little footwork reset as well. So watch what I do. See these little steps I'm taking? If you want to do a little hop is fine too. Split step kind of thing. Cool. Come back to your ready position every single time. Here's a quick one, but an important one. Footwork on backhand shots. Footwork is a little bit different with backhand shots up at the kitchen line, but back here on the baseline, try not to do this kind of thing on return of serves or thirds or whatever it is. 2 steps, 1, 2, and that's it. Whether you're right-handed or left-handed, non-dominant, dominant, on any kind of backhand ground stroke, just do that. It's a super quick tip, but very, very, very important. The next mistake, not letting high balls go out. This is an important one because it's going to give you a free point. Now, there's a really common saying in pickleball, shoulder high, let it fly. It may not be the most perfect rule, it's just a saying, but it's pretty dang good for now. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to hit back and forth here, and we're going to hit casually, and then he's just going to hit a random hard shot, and we're just going to see what happens when we let it go. Just let it go, see what happens. Okay, so here we go. So we're just going to hit random shots here, just kind of standard stuff, you know. And then, did you see that? So shoulder high, let it fly. The ball was clearly over my shoulder. I let it go, and the ball went out. Now, there will be times when the ball is above your shoulder. That's why you have to pay attention to the pace of the ball. So obviously, if you get a slow ball that's over your head, or like a lob, then obviously you're gonna have to go for it. But try to get into the habit of letting some of these balls go out. Let's just say that you've got, I don't know, 10 balls that may or may not go out. How many would have to go out in order for you to be really satisfied with your performance? So let's just say that, you know, 10 are gonna go out. Let's say 8 go out, but 2 stay in. Would you be happy with that? Yeah, you should be. You should absolutely be happy with that. 80% of them went out, that's really good. Think of it as you spent 2 points, the ones that didn't go out, they ended up staying in, for 8. That's pretty good. Be happy with that. In other words, don't be afraid to let balls go out. Try not to panic, be calm. When you see a windup, when you see a hard shot coming, just think to yourself, okay, you know, I may need to let this go, and then have the confidence to let it go, have the confidence to not try to react. So let's just look at this. So, again, just doing some normal shots here, and that one went out. Here's the other thing. Pay attention to the angle of attack, where the ball is being struck from. So if he hits one that's really low, kind of low to the ground, then it has to travel high in order to just clear the net, right? So whereas if he's hitting it really high, then it's probably not going to go out. So once again, let's just dink back and forth here so I can show you. Did you notice how I just let that ball fly past my head like that? The reason why I did that is just because I refused to react, but for a lot of people it's a habit, understandably so. What we want to do is get one of those under your belt. Just let one of those go. Have the discipline to not react. You'll let it go, it goes out, and you'll be so proud of yourself, it'll feel great. All right, the last mistake, pop-ups on volleys. Oh boy, this is a good one. Super common mistake. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna help you fix it, okay? So here's how this works. This is what this looks like, all right? So if I get a volley to me, does that look familiar? So you saw what happened there. I just kind of like, reacted, panicked, and I popped the ball. Let me show you again. Like that. Very, very common. Here's how you fix it. The first thing, you have to learn how to not react violently to these types of shots. So if you get a shot that's right at you, probably around in this area somewhere, don't react so quickly to it. It's not that big of a deal because a lot of that pace that comes in is going to come off your paddle and you're going to hit a pretty soft shot. So if the ball comes in like this, I'm just not going to take it too seriously, basically. So watch again, comes in, and I'm just going to lightly nudge that ball. Here's the trick to understanding this. When someone hits a volley like that and it doesn't bounce on your side, it's still got a lot of pace on it. If the ball bounces, it loses a lot of pace. But since it hasn't bounced yet, it's going to have a lot of explosiveness when it comes off your paddle. So if it comes over here, there's plenty of pace on that ball for me to get it over. The same thing works up here on the kitchen line. So if we just kind of dink back and forth here, and I volley a couple of these shots, I'm just going to lightly nudge the ball. I don't really need to do much else than that. It's just a light nudge. Here's what people do, especially at the kitchen line, is that they're not ready for the ball when it comes over. And so what they do is they do this, like that. And they just kind of go for it really, really quickly, like that. That's what you want to avoid. Here's what you do at the kitchen line when it comes to these volleys. Give yourself a little squat. So all that is, it's just a little squat like this. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. You know, we're not doing pistol squats over here or anything like that. Just give yourself a little squat, get your paddle out in front of you, and just give it a light little nudge, like that. Squat, nice little nudge. Squat, little nudge. And that is good enough to get the ball over. That is how you stop the pop-ups on these volleys. Don't react so violently to the ball. Try to just get your paddle out there, let the ball impact the paddle, and you'll be good to go. I hope that was helpful, guys. Those are some advanced beginner mistakes I see all the time. They're very, very common. I've got another video for you for the intermediate side of those mistakes. If you'd like to check that out, it's right up here. Thanks for joining me.